Good morning, folks. Welcome, observers. Today we're still dialed in on the solar storm. We've reached level 4 and nearly level 5 status overnight due to only the first CME impact. We're still waiting for the biggest one, and those top G5 storms are very much in play if that arrives soon. 24 hours past the X5 solar flare event you see here, starting the last 24 hours on our star. Luckily, since that time, there have been no other significant flares or eruptive events. It would seem that for this space weather sequence, the CMEs that are on their way is what's coming. So, let's go see those first data points of impact last night, and if you're new to the solar wind data, top panel, the bulge and enormous marks in black and red, that show where the impacts began. Nearly 100 protons per cubic centimeter at nearly 700 kilometers per second. Major plasma pressure there. Negative 60 BZ up top in red, which luckily didn't last long, or we would not be chatting this morning. Seriously. KP hit 8.67, almost 9, which is like a level 4.67 storm out of 5. Huge magnetic hit to our planetary shield here, and again, the big one is still on its way. I called for low latitude auroras the last 24 or 36 hours, and we've got them. Florida, Texas, Arizona, Alabama, still waiting for reports coming in from other countries, but we are very much outside of what we should see from this impact. That is, if the magnetic field of Earth was strong. The upper sky took an absolute pounding, much more than I've ever seen. You can see in each sequence where the calmer variability goes haywire, that's the moment of CME impact. And it tells me that the shockwave didn't just interact with Earth's magnetic field, it broke through to a considerable degree. This was a tremendous injection of energy to our planet via charged particles, weeks worth in a few hours. And while I remind everyone again, we still have the big one set to arrive today. The geoelectric has already cracked the 1,000 mark in the upper Midwest. If we take that next impact soon, we only need about a 5x increase in disruption to start seeing grids fail. That's 50-50 if the strike arrives today. I do not expect any more major CMEs launched our way. More solar flares from the northern departing spot wouldn't shock me, but it is turning away from the Earth. The other spots are too small. The stream limit proton spike upon impact took us to level 3 proton storm conditions briefly, largest in 20 years. They rerouted some polar flights during it because of the radiation dose rate. My eyes are firmly locked on the solar wind today, waiting for that bigger impact. If it happens as they forecast, KP9 G5 storms, very possible.
James Kaufman, World News Report today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a huge geomagnetic storm from the first of 3 X-class solar flares that are inbound. We just got hit at around 4 p.m. Central here. This storm hit hard. It came out registering as an 8.67 on the KP index. We're talking about the estimated planetary KP index that NASA and NOAA used for the first 3 hours. After that, we got a KP 8.33. Both those are G4 level geomagnetic storms. We're also on what's called a solar storm, which is made up of protons pounding our poles. We're also in a polar cap absorption event. It is crazy. The craziest part is we haven't really been hit by anything that substantial, and we could have a double whammy inbound for tomorrow, a 1-2 cannibal CME coronal mass ejection punch. And if that happens with our very weak shields, it's going to be lights out for a lot of folks around the globe, period. So just FYI, never say that we're having a solar storm. Always say that we're in a geomagnetic storm until these lines go above the space weather threshold here. We have the 10 million volts of electricity line way up here. It's registering right about 35 million volts of electricity. You can call this a proton storm or a solar storm, and you'd be correct. So again, the 10 million volt lines registering over 30 million volts of electricity. The 50 million volt line is registering over 100 million volts of electricity, and the 100 million volt line as you can see from the numbers, is registering about 137 million volts of electricity. Now, I will say that the 500 million volt line did not break the space weather threshold. I don't believe I've ever seen the 100 million volt line break it. So again, at 137.4 million volts. Unbelievable solar or proton storm being measured by GOES proton flux. All right, over to LASCO C3. These are the protons causing that proton storm. They appear as little white specks here. They're killing LASCO C3, as you can see. Here's the explosion, halo eruption, definitely earthbound. Killing LASCO C3, that's what's causing your solar storm, not your geomagnetic storm, and your proton storm, which are one and the same. If that wasn't bad enough, we were in a polar cap absorption event because of the proton storm, with protons and X-rays pouring through our North Pole and South Pole, where the Van Allen belts have holes. Look at the radio alternation here. I mean, there is no radio usage anywhere in Canada, all the way down to the U.S., anywhere in any part of Norway, Sweden, etc. No radio usage anywhere in the Antarctic whatsoever. This is a very strong event. You can see the radio alternation here on the right. Wow. Now here we can see our BZ is south here, and our angle, our 5 GSM, is south also. Bad news. I went over and did a video for you guys on this. Basically, our shields are down. We did have some heavy plasma hit, 92.46 and 97.01. I thought we might have 104.73. Now, I've seen plasma a lot higher than this, in the 140, 150 range, but I've never seen a storm like this. Obviously, it's because our shields are completely down. Look at the measly solar winds. They were chugging along at exactly 400 kilometers per second, and they got pushed ahead of the plasma. That's what made them rise so quickly, up to 712, which is not very fast. And you can see here they've fallen off again to just about nothing. The temperature rose at the peak of the storm here to elevated levels, and now it also has fallen back to basically normal levels. Now, even though the plasma's registering at basically normal levels here, and solar winds are registering at normal levels here and have been for the last several hours, these last hours have been a G4 geomagnetic storm caused by this plasma and this solar wind. For the last 6 hours, the last print just happened a few moments ago. We will take a look at that, but it's amazing. I was expecting a much smaller print for that second 3-hour period. We stayed at a G4 geomagnetic storm with hardly any plasma and any solar winds. Our shields have had it, folks. Let me just say that if the other two X flares to combine and end up being a cannibal CME, as mainstream media has actually picked it up, then this could be an event of a lifetime for all of us. Let's pray that that does not occur. That would happen at some point midday to late tomorrow, when we're impacted by both the 1.02 X flare and the 5.16 X class solar flare, both with halo CMEs, both inbound. And since the X 5.16 was so large and lifted so fast with so much plasma off the surface, might very well catch the X 1.02, causing what we call a cannibal coronal mass ejection. One eats up the atmosphere, and then the other one's able to come through with nothing to stop it. Now, with that said, I don't remember the last time if I ever have, seen a KP 8.67 followed by KP 8.33, 6 hours of G4 geomagnetic storms. The index really ends at 9. I guess it could go theoretically as high as 10, G5, but that is the highest it goes. At that point, I don't know what occurs. We're in unknown territory even at this point. This is the first of the 3 X-class solar flares, and I will show you those flares before we go, that are coming through. And this is wiping out the atmosphere for the next 2 already. So I think we're all in agreement that we're being hit by this X-class solar flare, the 1.8 plus right now. And we have the longer term, much more powerful, smaller flare, the 1.012 flare coming through at some point, and the larger 5.16 catching that flare. Probably for a hit late tomorrow. If one does catch the other, if the 5.16 does catch this long-term X and M flare, well, the way's already been cleared, as I've already shown you, and we have no atmosphere. It could be lights out for a large portion of the globe.
I can't remember how much we've discussed in our in our interactions that have been quite brief, actually, and very intense. But I was listening when I was listening yesterday. You were talking about the how we're in this new place. I believe this is what you're saying. This is what I got out of it. So we're in this new place in the universe, in this photonic belt, right? And so the energies that we're receiving are much more intense, much more strong, and that it's all about the Earth's ascension. It really has nothing to do with humanity. We're just kind of going along for the ride if we choose to do so. But what's coming to really what's been called the solar flash, and you were talking about it being some sort of energy. I wasn't able to catch a hold of all of that because I was actually doing a few things at the same time. I was listening to the podcast, trying to multitask. But I was told when I was in Shasta that on solstice we had this huge thing happening, and I was told that I was here to help awaken the kundalini of the planet, the ancient technologies, awaken them, and that I had 2 years to go to as many places around the world as possible to do this, so that when this huge energy comes in, which I wasn't told it was a solar flash, but that's what I saw, that the Earth would be the most open to receive it with the least amount of damage, right, through the physical body of the Earth. And then I was guided to leave. When I left Shasta, I was guided to go to Taos area, New Mexico, to the specific location, specific lake, and the specific alignment. And then once I got my little star map out, my star app on my phone, and looked, like 7 planets were in complete alignment, like in the complete line above. And I ended up channeling the Great Central Sun, and the message came through. It was so strong. And it was like, it's the work that's needed because this energy is coming through. Like, I'm bringing this energy through to assist the planet in its ascension, but all of this needs to happen beforehand so that it's as smooth as possible, right? And it was just like the energy I felt, the feeling I felt of the importance of it, how this has to happen. And like, this is all meant to be, and this and stuff. It was so strong. It's what propelled me. I just go, okay, I know this is what I have to do, And so when I was listening to you, I was like, oh my God, that's it. And I was told I have 2 years. We have 2 years. Is that kind of your time frame?
That somebody, I want to say 2 days ago, in my opinion, this shit could happen tomorrow as far as I know. But somebody else mentioned this window, and she asked me, how do you feel? Because something has resonated with me that this is going to happen sometime between now and 2022 and 2024. That matches exactly what you're telling me. So I resonate with, it's around the corner. And every time we talk about planning something into the future, half of me says, we're never going to get there for that. And then the other part says, no, these are steps that need to be taken prior. I can see that all of this is setting a foundation for us to not change people's minds. Frankly, too late for that. But the rest of us that are awake, we're going to try and wake you up as quickly as we can. And that's why more people are coming around to this.